Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we're going to talk a little Colts and Titans with one of the biggest Colts fans that I know, Terrika Foster-Brasby. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Mike? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You've been here before, so going to kick your feet up and everything. You've been in the lounge before, so
We're chilling.
right. But of course, we're going to get into Colts and Titans talk. Probably talk a little WNBA and college basketball too. But before we do all of that, of course, I have to say this show is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped.com. You can get 20% off at Manscaped.com plus free shipping with the promo code AFC South. Manscaped.com. Go there. Hey, you got somebody you want to get them a little gift for Christmas? Manscaped.com. Save money on me. AFC South. There's a promo code, manscaped.com. Okay, I had to get that out the way. But, hey, of course, I also have to do the Get It Off Your Chest segment. And, of course, I've been waiting a little bit for this one. Frank Reich, he must have been watching some old school because, of course, he was channeling his inner Frank the Tank with this Carolina Panthers team. They're 1-9. He was definitely trying to tank, but also, of course, he didn't have a first-round pick. So, you guess he was tanking for no reason. But, after the team continued in the wrong direction after a 17-10 loss, the team decided to let him go, and the Frank Reich era has ended very, very swiftly. Not even 1 year. He's been relieved of his duties along with Josh McCown, who, for many who don't remember, he was almost the Houston Texans coach before people remember that he'd never coached before and kind of called Houston Texans on it. So, and then also Deuce Staley was let go. He was the assistant coach and running backs coach, which I feel sad for him because, hey, Deuce has been the assistant coach at a couple different places and can't get that head coaching gig, which is unfortunate. Interim head coach Chris Tabor and actually offensive special advisor Jim Caldwell were the ones who were responsible for firing McCown and Staley. They were responsible for that. So, yeah. So, that all happened in one day. And of course, Tepper got up there and spoke and talked about, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, and boy, oh boy, they should have kind of, brought the wrap it up box because he was kind of digging this hole deeper and deeper. But anyway, the question I have is, why was he even hired to begin with? The people got to also remember this. At Indy, he coached Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan. Never once did he ever develop a quarterback. So why did you bring him to Carolina to develop a quarterback? Because he's never done it as a head coach. Now, I will say, as an offensive coordinator, yeah, he's done some things. But as a head coach, he has never developed a quarterback. So this didn't make sense to begin with. And then the struggle with whose system it's going to be. Thomas Brown was brought in to bring in the LA Rams type of system. And then Frank Reich was like, no, we're going to run my system and you're going to call my plays. And then Frank Reich started calling the plays and he let it go to Thomas Brown. And it just was a whole mess. Probably should have never been hired to begin with. The guy that should have been the coach is coaching the defense for the 49ers right now. That would be Steve Wilkes. He should have never been let go. He should have been the coach. He actually established the culture again. But yet you toss him aside for Frank Reich, a guy who can't get it right with the Indianapolis Colts. Sure, they rotated quarterbacks every year, but he just couldn't get it right. So to me, Chevron never should have been hired to begin with. And I could say, hey, maybe he goes back to the offensive coordinator role that he probably is destined for. You got any words to add to that, Terrika?
I don't know if I agree if he should have never been hired because I don't think that Frank Reich is a terrible coach. I just think he keeps getting put in terrible situations. I'm not sure that he ever really wanted to work with Bryce Young. Kind of feel like he was on the CJ Stroud train before the draft and may have been forced a bit to kind of take the Bryce Young route. And then when I think about him in Indy, I just feel like he again got the short end of the stick, with the exception of Carson Wentz. Excuse me, Carson Wentz, you got to take responsibility for, bro. Like you that enough was the casualty that got you fired because there was no reason that you should have had to work with Carson Wentz should have never been a Colt. That's just point blank and period. But I think he just got the short end of the stick. Carolina not going to be right for a while. But it is what it is.
I hear you there. And, you know, I get it. I get it. I don't know. I just don't think. I just think if they would have kept Steve Wilkes there, they kind of could have kept establishing, bringing back the keep pounding culture that they established in the Sam Mills era. So just to me, that's where I kind of was like, he shouldn't have been hired.
I'm gonna agree with people firing a coach like after a couple years. Like you gotta give people. I agree with Steve Wilkes. Steve Wilkes could have stayed for sure. You just gotta. You can't like that was the thing with Cleveland too. Like you just can't keep firing folks after a year or 2 years or 3. Like you got to give them a chance to establish some, give them a chance to grow, right? But you know, hey, it is what it is. It is what it is for Frank.
Yeah, Frank's still getting them checks. Them checks still clear.
He's still getting them checks.
So you know, hey, had to talk on that one, but of course. We are going to talk a little bit before we get into the Colts. I do have to talk about something that I love to watch. That is the WNBA. I loved watching the WNBA this year. I loved watching the Sparks be a little bit more competitive this year. I was so happy that Derek Fisher was not the coach this year. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. I was so happy he was not the coach. When he did Candace Parker the way he did Candace Parker, I knew it was going to be a terrible regime under him. But I digress. We did get to see, though, we talked about the entire season of the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty. And we finally got to see it in the playoffs and, you know, when everything mattered. And the Liberty just, you know, certain players just didn't show up. You know, most notably, I would say Sabrina Ionescu kind of, 17 points a game during the season, 9.8 points per game during the WNBA finals. I mean, was it something they were doing, or was it just hurt?
Yeah, it was something they was doing. It was called defense, and she ain't show up. That's what they was doing. It was that's what they was doing. She wasn't the only one who was MIA. Brianna Stewart was absolutely missing in action. We was like, "Where, girl? Did you know we're in the finals, right? You know, like this is the part of the season where we need the MVP to play like the MVP." So there was a lot going on, but what I can say is number one, this season was so historic in so many ways, especially given the amount of triple doubles that we were seeing, the stat line that Alyssa Thomas put up for the Connecticut Sun. We really did get the kind of finals that everybody wanted to see from an on-the-court standpoint, but we also got the experience of what a WNBA final should be from an off-the-court standpoint. There were so many stars who were at all of the games. The halftime performances were out of this world. We were in two of the biggest, most popular, most fun cities that we could ask for in New York and Las Vegas. So I think we all won in a way. Now you can't tell Liberty fans that they won because they still feel away. You know, it's been 2 months and they still feel some type of way. But and Game 4 came down to a literal last second shot. Like it came down to the wire, right? And that's kind of like what you want when you're thinking about in a championship game. Like that's what you want. So I loved everything about the build up to this, the playoffs coming into this. And I could see both of these teams attempting to compete for a while. I know that we're going to see Las Vegas like in this conversation at least for another couple of years. As long as Asia Wilson is there, she's gonna be all right. New York, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, they put this team together. We'll see what the free agency looks like. We'll see what the off season looks like in terms of them making some moves to see who stays, who goes, who wants to return to run it back. But there was definitely no shortage of entertainment in this finals this year.
Yeah, definitely. I love the celebration of the Las Vegas Aces as well. And the saltiness in the celebration. I love it.
Did you see the shirt though? Asia's so petty. You see the shirt?
Shade.
Asia had to pour on the shirt for the 4th place vote. Yo, I was screaming.
Yeah, I loved it. But one of the things I didn't love is that my Sparks didn't make the playoffs. I was hurting. They deserve better, I think. Jordan Canada, I became a huge fan of Jordan Canada this year. I just loved watching her play and develop, and the heart she played with and the determination she played with. Is there any hope for my Sparks? Can we get Kalia Copper to come on from Chicago to LA? Can we do that, please? Can we please do that?
I don't know that, but I think you could try. You could hope. You could try, but I don't know. She doing all right in Chicago. She ain't trying to leave right now. But what I can say is that I do think that your Sparks are going to be on the right track. I mean, Kurt Miller definitely knows how to turn a program around. Honestly, injuries is what got LA this year. Injuries came at the most inopportune time, as they typically do. And they really are the reason that LA team weren't further in the standings than they could have been. I think for them to have had to play with the roster that they had, they were very competitive. You always got a shot when you got Nneka Ogwumike on the court. Jordan Canada was a serious most improved player candidate this year because of how she went from a training camp roster to literally being somebody who that team needed day in and day out. You're going to get Lexi Brown back, and she's also an amazing player with so much to prove to herself and to others at the point guard position. So y'all are going, LA is going to be fine. Chanae was battling a foot injury. She's more than likely going to be healthier. So I think you guys will be fine. I'm excited to see what LA is going to do next year. I'm excited to see this. I just think that the WNBA is just at a place where you really cannot make a determination at the beginning of the season, because for real, if you think about it, there were so many people who made a determination about Connecticut at the beginning of the last season because of everything that they lost, and they end up being the third best team in the league. So, you can't really look at, what people put together in terms of a roster on paper, because come May, whatever day it is that the season starts next year, it's 0-0 and everybody got a shot. And I think with Kurt Miller at the helm, the Sparks are going to be right there in the thick of it.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. So I can, get my Sparks jersey, get my get my WNBA hoodie, and just
you see, I got my Sparks jersey back here. I got Slim jersey back here in this little container. So okay. I need them to give me a reason to hang it up now.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that Derek Fisher wasn't coaching the team, but I'm not gonna mention that no more. I'm just glad he wasn't coaching the team. But but kind of skipping over to I do have one thing I want to mention in college basketball in terms of women's college basketball. I was gonna talk about Aziz Fudd being out for the year, which that's huge with Paige Bucher coming back. Then now she's out for the year. It's kind of interesting there. Then you have South Carolina, and I was going to talk there. Let's talk Juju Watkins. Can we please talk about how talented that young woman is? Now, when I see LeBron James' son, and then I think of Juju Watkins, my mind instantly goes back to one of my favorite movies. That would be Love and Basketball.
Oh God.
It just does. It goes back to that. Well, but it's kind of flipped to me in a sense, because the star of stars is in women college basketball on this one, to me.
I mean, the star was technically Monica in Love and Basketball too. It just, Quincy just kind of was who he was because of who his daddy was, which essentially is the same in this situation. Like, I mean, for real. No, in all seriousness though, like Juju Watkins is like, this freshman class is different, like really different. This freshman class is good, and she's leading the way. She's got USC at a place where they haven't been in a very long time, since like Lisa Leslie was there. So this is a program that has a storied history in women's basketball. This is where Cynthia Cooper balled. This is where the McGee twins balled. This is where Cheryl Miller balled. Yes. So this is there is a history of ballers that come out of USC, and she's certainly leaning into that. I could see her winning the National Player of the Year. I mean, I'm not talking about national freshman of the year because she could win that too. But I mean, she is legitimately to me in the national player of the year conversation as a freshman. She's really that good. So I am also very excited to continue to watch her play and just see, you know, how she continues to mature and develop as this season goes on. People don't realize college basketball is a long season for real.
Very much. Very much. I couldn't do it. I applaud the people that do it. Nah, but yeah, I'm excited. You know, of course, you know everyone's got their jokes. Juju on the beat, but no, I'm not even gonna do that.
Juju
but,
on the beat though. She on the beat. She on what? You ain't
yeah.
and ain't nobody else on her beat but her. Okay, so
this is true. This is true. This is true. Well, you know, of course, I did want to mention you know some college basketball, some women's college basketball, and also some you know some WNBA because I do enjoy watching both, and you know I want to you know show support for women's college basketball and the WNBA because I love watching them. And the thing I also want to tell people is, you know, men's college basketball and the NBA is great, but if you want to see a game that's technically functionally sound, the WNBA and women's college basketball is where it's at. And it's exciting too. So don't say it's
really
not exciting.
Is.
It's very exciting. And they talk trash, which I love the most. Give me Chelsea Gray. Give me Chelsea Gray.
Competitor don't? Because what competitor don't? I'm talking trash. I'm talking trash on the space table. You know what I'm saying? It don't even matter what we do.
There you go.
I'm talking trash regardless. So if we talking trash on a regular Tuesday, you know that you know when they on the court, it's going down. That's how it is.
Yeah. Yep. And then you know you gotta warm that shoulder up too in spades. You know when you throw down that big spade, you know. So,
you know what I'm saying? You see the flick of the wrist. You get the flick of the wrist. You gotta have that flick.
Nah, I come down through the table. I just come.
You big time. Oh, my bad.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna get into the Colts on touring the AFC South with their host Mike Patton.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. Of course, we do have to talk some AFC South things, and that would be the Indianapolis Colts. Now, before the season, everyone was not expecting them to be where they are, but lo and behold, everyone's talking about the Texans, but really, the Colts are actually the one in the 7th spot right now if the playoffs were to start today. Now, did you expect the Colts to be this competitive this soon, this season?
No. I'm going to tell you the one thing I did not have on my bingo card, and that is them absolutely being in this position right now. I mean, like you mentioned, if the playoffs started today, they're sitting in that 7th seed, and they've been able to do this without Anthony Richardson. They're doing this with Gardner Minshew. So yeah, that is excuse me, that is absolutely one thing I did not have on my bingo card this year.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see the Indianapolis Colts in playoff position and Gardner Minshew shimmying in the end zone. So that's what's kind of throwing me off. I'm like, where did this shimmy come from? But anyway,
I didn't even know this man had rhythm, Mike. Where did the rhythm come from?
I don't know. Maybe he watched a little Kevin Bacon Footloose and thought he wanted to kind of bring that to the team. So I don't know. But one thing that did also surprise me as well was the release of Shaq Leonard. I didn't expect that to happen during the season. I thought maybe the offseason because he kind of wasn't playing up to the level he was used to, but it happened right then and there. Bam. Now he's on the verge of potentially signing with the Eagles or the Cowboys. So
yeah.
Did you kind of expect this to happen during the season, or how shocked were you that this happened right then and there?
In all honesty, I think I was a little bit surprised when he was let go, but I think I also understood, and really, the more that I think about it, I actually lightweight respect the decision. I mean, when you think about it, this man is a 3-time first team All-Pro. He was really the cornerstone for Indy's defense, and he was the captain, right? But unfortunately, injuries happen. And so for him, you could just see that he was continuing to decline from a skill set standpoint. 2 back surgeries last year in 2022, never really seemed to find himself, never really was able to get back to that fearsome defensive threat that really made playing against this Colts defense a daunting task. And so, I think his playing time was already inconsistent. It got to a point where the team was just basically benching him and said that he was going to be inactive for the rest of the season. So I think instead of insulting this man as someone of his stature, they put him in a position where he could take his talent somewhere else, where he could be an effective part of some team, even if that wasn't going to be any. So I think they really gave him some respect in waiving him. I think the respect of allowing him to still, finish this season on a team where he can be a contribution. I think that was important. So I actually respect it. And honestly, Ronnie Harrison Jr. is the player that replaced him. He usually plays safety, but he looked all right out there. He played in his first game. He got an interception to start. So I think everything is going to work out just fine. But it does, as a Colts fan, kind of touch your heartstrings a little bit, because you wanted Shaq Leonard to be a Colts fan. To be a Colt for the entirety of his career. Everything that he's done in the community, everything that he had done, for the city. He still gave out Thanksgiving turkeys hours after being waived. So when you got a good guy like that and a teammate like that, you kind of want to see him end his career there. But unfortunately, that just didn't happen.
Yeah, it was interesting to me. It kind of threw me off guard, but I totally understand that you don't want to pay him $16 million. They're still trying to figure things out next year. Now, of course, we're going to slide over to the big game this Sunday, Titans versus Colts. Now, that's the matchup. Now, remember the first game, Moss went crazy that game.
Yeah,
he had 23 carries, 165 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. The Titans front line last game against Carolina Panthers had 4 sacks, 2 of those, Danico Autry. And then Arden Key was pretty active as well. Does this defensive line concern you the way they're active at home? Now, by the way, they are undefeated at home, and they're one of the, with a few undefeated teams at home, and they're also a team that plays way better defensively at home. So does it kind of concern you just the activeness of this front line versus the Colts offensive line in this game?
Absolutely not. And I am not saying that as a Colts fan. I'm saying that as I watched them play this active last week uncharacteristically against a 1-9 team. And that plays some weight, right? I do, however, think that there is an opportunity there for this Titans defensive line to really make some noise. So as we're talking about Gardner Minshew, one thing I know is he's not really a quarterback that allows, he's not a quarterback that causes teams to lose, but he is a quarterback that makes mistakes, and he makes a lot of them. And I think that there's an opportunity there for this Titans defensive line to capitalize on the mistakes that he makes. When you look at some of the sacks that he takes, this isn't a person who, the Colts offensive line is decent enough to protect him long enough for him to get the ball in the air or to whatever receiver he needs to at whatever time. The problem is he prematurely leaves the pocket all the time. A lot of the times he's taking sacks because he's walking right into them. I think those are moments and opportunities that this Tennessee defensive line can set a tone. They can take advantage of his mishaps. They can take advantage of his missteps, and they can utilize that, especially being at home, especially being that they've played well at home, as an opportunity to kind of build a bit of confidence there and kind of take Indianapolis off of their game. Because just line to line, in the trenches, I do think that they're undermatched against the Colts' offensive line. But I just also feel like there are opportunities there that they can take advantage of that can really take Indianapolis out of their game.
Okay, we'll definitely see. I'm pretty sure that Arden Keys remembers the last game because after the game I asked him about it, and he said, man, we owed him one. It's
Yeah.
basically what he said. So going also if they are able to hold up, the Titans defensive backs aren't necessarily holding it down out there. So
Right,
Michael
right.
Pittman and Josh Downs versus the Titans cornerbacks, that could be a little exciting. Very much.
That is absolutely something that they're gonna have to do. I think when you think about keys and things for this Tennessee team to kind of like feel that they are still in it or that they have a good shot. Again, obviously capitalizing on Minshew mistakes. That's what I call them, Minshew mistakes, because you never know which Gardner you're gonna get. You could get the Gardner that threw 400 yards and 4 touchdowns against Cleveland, or you can get whatever that mess was we saw against New England. So you don't know which one we're gonna get. But I do also think that another key piece for Tennessee is that they have to limit the big plays. Even when you're looking at how Indianapolis played against Tampa Bay, there were some huge plays from Michael Pittman. And Michael Pittman, to me, he has moments where he forgets that he's a wide receiver one. You know what I mean? He has moments where he forgets he's that guy. And even in that matchup, even though he and Josh Downs had the same amount of targets, they had 13 targets in that matchup, it was Josh Downs that had almost 100 yards in that game. And that, is just simply the mindset and the capitalization off who's guarding you. On the opposite side of that, our secondary ain't scrubs, but DeAndre Hopkins is a problem. You know what I mean? Like DeAndre Hopkins is a real problem. And you could see how our secondary handles playing star receivers just by how they were unable to really get a grip on Mike Evans. Like it just is what it is. It's Mike Evans. Like Kenny Moore's great, but Kenny Moore ain't as quick as he needs to be in order to try to hold down a player like Mike Evans. I see those same similarities in a player like DeAndre Hopkins. So what it comes down to me is I think the biggest thing, and maybe you were going to ask this, so I'm probably talking too much, and I apologize.
Go right ahead.
Stealing your question. But I think it really ultimately comes down to Will Levis. And just for me, I know that when these two teams met the first time, it was Ryan Tannehill, and to me, that's the biggest difference. It's whether or not Will Levis is able to really take advantage of the opportunity to show that he is the guy that Tennessee expected him to be when they selected him. He uses his legs better than Tannehill, that's for sure. I think he's starting to level off a little bit more in his understanding of his team and being a bit more comfortable under center. But his performance is absolutely going to be key and on whether or not they're able to pose a threat to Indianapolis. He's going to have to be solid in all three phases, in the short game, in the long game, in the deep threat game. He's going to have to be, you could see him and DeAndre Hopkins starting to connect more last week against Carolina. But I think that he's going to be the person to have to make plays. He's going to be forced to make plays. And if he's able to do that, Tennessee got a real shot at home, for real.
Well, it's definitely going to be interesting. And then what's also going to be interesting is the Tennessee offensive line versus the Panthers D-line, which, of course, the left tackle spot's been interesting for the Tennessee Titans this year. So start off with Andre Dillard. Now it's Dylan Radins, and it's been interesting. And then, of course, Nicholas Petit-Ferrer was suspended for the first few games, then came back and then hurt his shoulder. Now he's out for the season. So, it is what it is. It's going to be an interesting game. But speaking of games, we have a game to kind of close out the show. 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Are you ready?
Oh, God, I think so.
All right, let's see. You got one concert to go to.
Okay.
Are you going to the Kendrick Lamar concert or the J. Cole concert?
Oh, that's not fair. Okay. Oh, I'm probably going to go to the J. Cole concert.
Okay. All right. Let's see. HBCU. Now you went to HBCU. So are you there for the band or are you there for the game?
Oh my God. I went to an HBCU and I was a bandsman. I am there for the band.
All right. Yes. All right. Now I'm going a little old school R&B, 90s R&B. Okay. We got Janae, Hey Mr. DJ, or Jay, Don't Walk Away. Which song are you picking between those two?
Oh, fun. Okay. Here's a quick tip. My sister's name is Dejanay, and I named her after the group Jeanne. Yes, my mom let me name her, and I named her after the group Jeanne. So I'm definitely taking Jeanne. Hey, Mr. DJ.
Okay, all right. I thought I may have you had to think about that one, but the next one you might have to think about.
Okay.
All right, we're going point guards, the early days of the WNBA. Don Staley or Teaspoon? Which point guard are you taking?
Oh, you about to get me unfriended on every platform from everything. I cannot win in this situation. Wow. Oh man, Dawn Staley or Teaspoon. Oh,
For those that aren't aware, this Teresa Weatherspoon.
Teresa Weatherspoon, right? Okay. I might take Dawn Staley. Don't unfriend me, Spoon. Okay.
All right. And the last one. Okay, you got to cheer for one team. Are you cheering for the Patriots or are you cheering for the Titans?
What? Oh God. Okay. I quit. I quit.
Oh.
That is wild. I'm probably gonna just quit. But if quitting is not an option, I would probably take the Titans. I cannot. There is nothing you can do on this earth that can make me cheer for the Patriots. I cannot. So I would probably take the Titans over the Patriots. And by take the Titans, I mean, and that's all I got for you.
All right, 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice is over. You're off the hot seat, and that's the end of the show. I want to thank you for coming on. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on social media? And what all you were working on as well.
Absolutely. First off, thanks again for having me. I had a lot of fun. Definitely got to come back. But you can find me on Twitter at SheKnowSports. I'm also on Instagram at SheKnowSports_, or you can follow me on Facebook if you're still on Facebook at SheKnowSports Media. I'm everywhere.
All right. And for me, I'm the host of Touring the AFC South. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Artist formerly known as Twitter. There we go. That's what I call it. I'm kind of the an ode to Prince. But you can find me on there at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton82. Of course, you can find me on Instagram and Threads as that's THA, not THE, _general_NP. And of course, you can find Touring the AFC South on all listening platforms. That be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, YouTube as well. You can watch the show and watch the replay if you didn't catch it at first. But definitely check out Touring the AFC South. Thank you all for tuning in. We're out. Peace.